Help me reach 2,000 subscribers. It was 11:45 p.m. when my phone buzzed. A simple text lit up the screen. Just 5 more minutes. I smiled at first. It was the same message my wife, Julia, always sent whenever she was running late, whether from work, a dinner with friends, or one of those networking events she'd been attending more often lately. But that night, something about it felt different. Maybe it was the way the words looked on the screen, or maybe it was the fact that she'd said she'd be home by 10. I typed back, "Okay, drive safe." But she didn't reply. By midnight, I was still sitting in the living room, the soft glow of the TV fading into background noise. My dinner was cold, my thoughts louder than the silence. I wasn't paranoid by nature. I'd always trusted Julia. But lately the little things had started to pile up. The late-night showers. The sudden change in passwords. The perfume that wasn't hers lingering in the car. And then there was last week, when she'd come home smiling at nothing in particular. Her cheeks flushed like she'd just heard a private joke. I'd asked what was so funny and she'd simply said, "Oh, just work stuff." I wanted to believe her. God, I did. But that night, when 5 minutes turned into an hour, and an hour turned into 2, belief started to feel like denial. At 1:02 a.m. my phone buzzed again. A notification from our shared location app popped up, the one we both installed years ago, back when trust was still something we didn't question. She wasn't at work. She wasn't even near the route home. The dot blinked from a quiet neighborhood on the other side of town. One I didn't recognize at first. But curiosity has a cruel way of erasing reason. I grabbed my keys, heart pounding in that sickening rhythm between dread and hope. Maybe she'd had car trouble. Maybe she'd gone to see a friend. Maybe, and this was the lie I clung to, maybe there was a reasonable explanation. When I pulled into that neighborhood 20 minutes later, I recognized the street name. It belonged to someone I knew, someone she used to work with. And when I saw her car parked right outside his house, 5 more minutes suddenly made sense. For a moment I just sat there in the car, gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. The lights in his house were dim, but one window upstairs glowed faintly, warm, yellow, intimate. I didn't need proof beyond that. My instincts had already screamed the truth long before my heart dared to accept it. I thought about walking away, pretending I hadn't seen it, pretending that maybe I'd made a mistake. But the part of me that had been silently suffering for months, the part that kept forgiving her late nights, her coldness, her constant excuses, finally snapped. I got out of the car and walked up to the front door. Every step felt heavier than the last. I wasn't angry, not yet. I was just tired. Tired of being lied to. Tired of waiting for someone who had already left me emotionally. I didn't knock. I simply dialed her number and watched the light flicker from the upstairs window. A few seconds later her phone lit up. I could see the glow through the curtains. She didn't answer. So I texted her. "You still need 5 more minutes?" No reply. That was when I noticed a second shadow move across the curtain, larger, broader. My stomach twisted. The realization hit me like a punch to the chest. She wasn't alone. I stood there for what felt like forever, staring up at the window that once represented everything I believed about love. And then I did something I never thought I would. I pulled out my phone and opened my contacts. I found his wife's number, Claire. We'd met once at a company event years ago. She'd been polite, kind, unaware that her husband and my wife shared more than just work projects. When she answered, her voice was soft, sleepy. "Hello." I swallowed hard. "Claire, I think you should know where your husband is." There was silence on the other end. Then a sharp inhale. "What do you mean?" I turned my camera toward the window and said quietly, "Look at the location I'm sending you." Within seconds I heard her breath quicken. That's our address," she whispered. "Yeah," I said, voice shaking. "And your husband isn't alone." I didn't wait for her reply. I hung up, turned around, and walked back to my car. The truth didn't need confrontation anymore. It was already burning down everything between us. By the time I reached home, it was almost dawn. The sky was still dark, but the first hints of light were beginning to push through, the kind of soft gray light that makes everything look colder than it is. I sat in the living room staring at nothing, replaying everything in my mind. Her laughter, her touch, her promises, and that last message. Just 5 more minutes. It wasn't the words that destroyed me. It was how casually they were written. Like she was asking for more time to finish a drink or a conversation, not betraying everything we'd built together. An hour later, my phone buzzed. Her name appeared on the screen. I didn't answer. A few minutes later, another text came in. I can explain. Explain what? That the meetings she stayed late for were lies? That the nights she said she needed space were just rehearsals for her next excuse? That the person she was supposed to love was sitting at home trying to convince himself she still cared? No, there was nothing left to explain. When she finally showed up, the sun was fully up. She looked startled to see me awake, almost like she'd expected to sneak back into a life she'd already abandoned. Hey, she said softly, trying to smile. You're up early. I didn't answer. Just watched her drop her purse on the couch like it was any normal morning. She hesitated when she saw the expression on my face. What's wrong? I finally spoke. Claire called me. Her face drained of color. She opened her mouth but nothing came out. The silence stretched so long I could hear her heartbeat in the stillness. I told her where her husband was, I said. You should probably call her before she gets there. She blinked, stunned. Then panic replaced guilt. She grabbed her phone, typing frantically. I watched her fingers tremble as she tried to fix what couldn't be fixed. When she finally looked up, her eyes were filled with tears. You ruined everything, she whispered. I almost laughed. No, I said quietly. You did. She tried to reach for me, but I stepped back. I wasn't angry anymore. Just empty. The kind of emptiness that comes after the storm has taken everything worth saving. As she stood there crying, I walked past her, picked up my keys and opened the door. She called my name, but I didn't turn around. Some endings don't come with closure. They come with silence. And that silence was louder than anything she could ever say.